It's really tricky because I think what the temptation is to go, we've got to win the league and we've got to get us some semi-final of the Champions League and win the FA Cup or something, because that would be an improvement obviously on this season. But Arteta himself said we are ahead of schedule. We're ahead of, he said to, I think it was to ESPN or something in about March or so. He said we're in phase 3 and currently, and I think he said to Jamie Carragher in December, we're a little bit ahead of schedule. So I think it's about consolidating for me. I think I'd like to
show with the new contracts being given and whatnot, as much as bringing in players.
Mm-hmm. There's a great graphic by a guy called Scott Willis on Twitter where he puts basically the peak ages of all the positions in a line, and almost all of Arsenal's players are like just before the peak age position.
They're flirting with it, yeah.
They're just about to be there. They're eyeing them up over the club, so they are about to move into that area. So I think the next 2-3 years,
is maturity.
Yeah, I'm expecting a move into maturity and properly challenging for all the competitions. Look, I think I said this in a video recently. There's no point having a project and having a process and believing in it, which I've always done, and I've always you can check the receipts. I've always backed Arteta, and I've always said I believe in what he's doing. But there comes a point in a process where you move through the phases, and if at some point you don't go, no, now is the point where we have to try and reach that height. Not to say there was no point in the process, but like there has to be a point where you go, no, now we are aiming for stage 5. Stage 5 is probably maintaining and trying to win Premier Leagues and Champions Leagues. I don't think we're there yet. So I'm, in terms of expectations for next season, because we're just slightly pre-peak, we're probably a year or 2 out from where we are going to be properly challenging. Probably need one more summer window just to get everyone there. Then players that are entering their peak years. Yeah, I'd probably say I'd be very happy with second again and a very tightly run title race. Obviously, I want to win first. I agree with you. Round 16 or quarters of the Champions League, I wouldn't be surprised if we went further, but I'd be happy with that. A decent run in the FA Cup, hopefully a final or a semi-final or something, and similarly in the League Cup, I think would be a very good season. And the thing is people go, but it's not a trophy. I'm imitating. It's not a trophy. It's like, okay, well then, if we won a League Cup, then if we came,
what they would say, that League Cup is only relevant when your team win it. Like, if I'm shameless, exactly. Like I've been dissing my United friends in my group chat. If we go and win that, that's a madness. I don't care about the Community Shield. If we win the Community Shield again, I refer to it as the English Super Cup. I'm shameless. I'm very shameless like this. I can't lie to you.
We're winning the Tour de France, mate.
Yeah, we're winning everything. So might even win Summer Jam or WrestleMania or whatever next wrestling events is coming up as well, mate. Like, it's absolutely crazy. But I think you're right with that. I think it's ultimately, football is escapism. It's something we can identify with. As we all know, life, there's many things to be happy about, but living crisis, living costs, all of these things are going up. And despite all of that, and people feeling the pinch, they're still going to go to games, still going to have season tickets, because it's a sense of belonging. You love the team, and definitely what Arteta has done. And out of all the things, I echo your thoughts about believing in Arteta. The one thing I would really two things I like about Arteta. He's always made difficult decisions and lived or died by them. The world wanted Granit Xhaka out, for example. The world didn't agree with Aubameyang's contract. I remember Reece Nelson starting ahead of Pepe when he first walked in. And there's a series of those things he's done, revitalizing Granit Xhaka. And I also, on top of that, like how the thing that struck about me in his opening interview signing for our club is that we all need to sing from the same hymn sheet. We need the fans on side, etc., etc. So I can understand, definitely home and away, the fans are crazy. We're all together and united. And obviously we've somewhat exceeded expectations last season in second. So I can understand wanting to go the other way. And I'm not trying to belittle expectations. Neither am I saying don't dream, but kind of echoing what you're saying. It's not that we're not at a level we're not, but we're not at a level we're not. Like, we're not quite there yet. We're good for 38 games. We need to be great. Personally, I think we need to improve in terms of a lot of defensive metrics, general street smartness, and handling ourselves mentally, because I think as great as City are and the super team, like you said, let's be honest, like, we threw it away for ourselves. And to be honest with you, I know last season, the tail end of last season will be highlighted, but it's actually in games we've won. It's actually in what would be the poster games of last season, the Bournemouths, the Aston Villas away, the Uniteds, where there was evident signs that we need to do better. So there's a lot that we need to improve. And I don't like to keep saying this young thing, but it is a young squad with the additions coming in and the experienced players and another year under their belt. We just have to hope for the best, man, really and truly. My next thing for you would be actually what do you make of Kai Havertz's signing? Arteta keeps describing him as a midfielder. What was your initial thoughts? Now, I'm pretty sure I can speak for you when you might have, like myself, you might have concerns about Kai Havertz. There's a lot to like about him, but Arteta's a mad scientist. We'll let him work his magic and then see like if it works or not. But come on now, no one was really screaming Kai Havertz to sign for the club. It took everybody left. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, initial reaction, like... Of course, because but then you go, okay, right, let me humble myself. I'm a fan. I don't know football to that level. Like, I'm just giving my opinion and my thoughts. What we've seen every single summer is a change, some kind of change. Whether that's been to the kind of lone pivot, whether that was last summer with the inverted fullback, whether that was moving away from the back five we saw in the beginning of the first season. Like there's every single summer there's been
the role of the striker with Aubameyang versus Jesus, and to a degree even Lacazette in his last season. You're right.
Bang on. There's been change every single time. The only thing we can guarantee is change. So then I think we almost have to sort of reverse it and go, okay, rather than where does Havertz fit into this team, where does Arsenal fit around Havertz? What is Havertz good at? And therefore, how can he take us to the next level? There's a clip of Arteta at the end of last season where someone says, like, how close are you to being the team that you expected? And he said, there's huge margins. We can be much, much, much better. And he makes a whole list of things.
When you say it or when I say it, people say we're saying every other thing. So when the general Mikel Arteta is saying it, hopefully it holds some weight, man. You're right.
You'd hope so. You'd hope so. But he's saying, set pieces, transitions. Like he's saying literally everything we could.
Street smartness, every damn thing could be better.
And you were right about what you said about the poster games of last season. As much as we look back on those with good memories, we were terrible at periods of those games. Like we
could have lost or drawn them and had no complaints, honestly.
Exactly. So then how do we improve? And then Kai Havertz comes into the picture. I think Kai Havertz he's been misprofiled and he's been misused at Chelsea, in my opinion. Kai Havertz, if you look at what he's best at for Germany,
forget that false nine stuff, man.
For Leverkusen, it's behind the sort of front line. He is elite at dropping to the pockets, turning, picking up the ball and picking the
makes fantastic runs off the ball as well.
He's honestly his ability to fill in out wide, his whatever. I've got one of my guys on a different guy called George Vutsas. You should have one here, by the way. He's a genius.
Get him up, set it up, Dan.
I'll send him your details. He's a coach himself. He's got his UEFA B, and he talks about how essentially Kai Havertz could be the tip of a diamond. So we think about last season, we had it's not quite right, but the three in midfield. And now he thinks we're going to flip it and have basically a tip of a diamond. Havertz will move from there. He'll drop into the pockets. He'll drift out
simultaneously. You've got Odegaard tying in, doing that as well.
Exactly. Odegaard could go to the left. And also, I think one of the big aims for next season is getting Saka and Martinelli closer to goal. How do you do that? Well, what you need is someone to fill in out wide. And who's one of the best players naturally drifting out to the wide areas and coming back inside? Kai Havertz. So you start to look at his profile. You start to look at the height as well. It's something we don't have in our front line. I think our next biggest player after Xhaka's gone is Odegaard, like 5'9" or 10 or something like that.
That's crazy.
And, it's some height as well. I do worry about him under contact. I do worry about him in a block. But people say, like, he can't play the 4-4-2 block. He can't do what Xhaka does. Yeah, he can't. But he can do what Havertz does. So we're probably
He's two very different players. He's his old man. Exactly. And he actually, for me, he makes third man runs, which I actually think is great because he's going to run in behind. And as you see, when he makes the run in behind, people hold their position. And that might give more opportunities to, the Odegaard type finish against Spurs, for example, where he's outside the area and he hits it. I do think Havertz is going to benefit a bit from the Arsenal tax in that we're ahead of our project with Chelsea. To be fair, whatever we have to say about Havertz, not a single player really thrived in that Chelsea system last season, specifically the attackers. A bit like what you're saying, I do think he's been mismanaged or misunderstood really in that you could fill in at false nine and you probably will at occasion at Arsenal, but I don't think that's you. I think you need to get back to what you was doing in Germany where you was more of a midfielder at times pulling out to the right hand side and doing the link up play and things you need to do really and truly. What do you make of Declan Rice then? Clearly a gigantic signing.
Buzzing. I mean, it's unbelievable, isn't it? I can't believe we've done it.
Speak for me as well, man. That's good. Yeah. I don't know what to say. Disbelief, mate.
It's like a career mode signing. It's crazy. Yeah. It's honestly crazy. And I never thought, can you think back to like the summers of 2015 where we signed like Petr Cech and no one else, Mustafi, Lichtsteiner.
We used to debate Suarez. Is Holding and Marie our best centre back pivot. We've come a long way, Arteta. Thank you, man. Thank you. Thank you, man. Oh my God.
Yeah, literally. So it's
Trenches.
crazy. I think also he's another person who can, speaking. I think that the Havertz and Rice signings are massively linked in the sense that when you have someone who is, I would say, possibly the best player in the Premier League at winning the ball back, specifically winning the ball back, interception stats, I think together last season, Xhaka and Partey per 90 got to like 1.2 interceptions per 90 each. Rice on his own is 1.7.
And that'll probably drop because he probably win the ball back a lot less at Arsenal and have to be on the ball a bit more because we're not doing what West Ham are doing. Quality player, man.
So I think there's certain things where we can, if we're looking at roles next season, that kind of stabilizing effect of a Granit Xhaka that we had. If we had a Rice in there, who is, I think Partey is a fantastic player and has certain qualities, but Rice, in terms of transition control, winning the ball back, getting the ball forward, there is a level to him that Partey, I don't think, has anymore, especially because of his legs. I wonder whether we can afford to play with a bit more of an adventurous left eight or an adventurous diamond or an adventurous midfield, because we do have that. And I think, Rice is someone who not only can bring an incredible amount on the field, but also off the field. We just lost Granit Xhaka, and he comes in, and I think Rice
leadership qualities, man, immediate leadership qualities.
And we it's a bit soft factoring it to that, does he do card tricks? That Roy Keane thing, but like it's, but it matters. It matters, and it's that thing of, I've been thinking a lot recently. People try and downplay this kind of stuff, but psychologically it has a massive impact. Do you remember, like, basically all the Invincibles and people who used to play against the Invincibles were like, we'd stand in the tunnel next to them.
Yeah, the game's done by then.
Do that and be like, oh my God, we've lost.
Exactly.
Because they're massive and technically secure, and that's what Rice is. So I think it's just an unbelievable signing, and it's the perfect signing. And supposedly Mikel's wanted it for 6 months, so it sounds like it's a lot on his shoulders. So fair play to him.
I'm happy for several reasons, because obviously that's the top target. I know everyone's quick to attack Edu because, they just think he's just sitting on his phone posting barbecue pictures. So I'm happy he gets that. Happy Declan Rice obviously gets his dream move to Arsenal. Like you said, it's been done for months. Arteta gets his first choice. I think there's so much to like about Declan Rice because he's someone that lifts, in my opinion, he lifts our midfield. We need physicality. As much as I like the Wenger ball, the Arteta ball, whatever you want to refer to it as, it does feel like we're going against the grain where Wenger said it's all about high transition, high turnovers. We need that. I think Declan Rice can get the best out of Partey. Partey can get the best out of him. They can both be utilized together. Equally, one could be dropped out. Obviously, he's a long-term 6. I do think him and Benjamin White could be groomed to play in that Stones role. Obviously, I don't want to see it do it, but if push comes to shove, like when Saliba got injured last season, for example, you'd rather Declan Rice fill in at centre half than, with the greatest of respect, Rob Holding. And like you said there, I think, obviously when you look at Declan Rice, he immerses himself in a football club completely. Like you look at, obviously the first team won the Europa Conference League. They won the FA Youth Cup. He was there, ironically, at the Emirates, in the change rooms and things like that. And although he's young-ish, he might as well be a veteran. He comes in a European trophy winner 200 odd times for West Ham, hallmark in the Premier League, plays for his country. I see his signing in terms of experience a bit like Kai Havertz, a bit like Martin Odegaard with everything he went through prior to signing for Arsenal, a bit like Ramsdale being in relegation battles and things like that. So I love it. I love this sign. I would have loved to have kept Xhaka, Partey, had Rice and all of these options. But I think Declan Rice, I'm intrigued with what Kai Havertz, what better yet, I'm intrigued with what Arteta can do with Kai Havertz. I'm ecstatic about Declan Rice. And I do think Timber, that's the next thing we're getting onto. I think Timber's been a bit slept on by Arsenal fans, what he gives our depth, whether he's going to play centre-back or right-back, Benjamin White, Saliba and him. Make sure you give Arteta a problem and you're not the ones to be left out. What do you make of Timber? Because when you look at progressive passes and all of that, and while he's not a centre mid like Zinchenko kind of is by trade, he gives us a lot on that right-hand side. Respectfully to Tomiyasu, he doesn't really give you too much going forward. Benjamin White, obviously a quality player, but he's probably a bit like Saka had to overplay at times. So what do you make for Timber?
I think Timber, and actually similarly to Havertz, is Rice fits everyone's eye very quickly. They watch him play for 10 minutes and they're like, yeah, love him. Like he's one of those guys you go like, yeah, get him in, sign him, whatever the cost. Timber's someone who I think takes a little bit more thinking about. And once you have a think about it, I think you see it works. And I think he's also the kind of perfect transition player for a modern way of thinking about football. I think for many, many years, because of partly because of FIFA and Football Manager, but also the way Sky cover things and stuff. A fan perspective has been modeled into teams playing formations. They play in 4-2-3-1, and they don't move out of
and
it.
It's not that people don't understand there's formations within a formation. Sometimes it might look like a back 3 or 4 or whatever, really and truly. And when the problem is, when, like you said with Sky, when they do seem to do this, it's just fancy heat maps and there's no context behind it, really.
I don't think I've ever seen anyone that ever mentioned build-up structure on Sky. So
it's crazy.
In, out, and in transition, in and out of possession, in transition. I think Mikel will want options. I think generally he'll probably play as 3-2, but we also saw at the beginning of last season a 2-3. I think Timber gives you options on the right side of a 3. I think he gives you options further up in a 2, a 3-2 on the right side of a 2, inverting, if you want to call it that, or the advanced fullback. I think he gives you options on the far hand side. I think Mikel might want times where it's almost a 2-4, and Timber's your widest man on the right. I think he can do that as well. And then I think he can play as a centre back in a block, and I think he can play as a right back in a block. So there's a lot of things.
22 as well, man. The wealth of experience. He carries resale value. He carries longevity. Going back to what you said about the graph with Kit in peak ages, so right pedigree, and he's also got leadership qualities. So again, Arteta's doing what needs to be done, man.
Yeah, 100%. And I think he just gives us options, and I don't necessarily want to. Just going to find that graph because I think it's so important. Just got what else? Yeah, but I think basically he gives us options, and that is. Last season, we would have absolutely died for a player in that mold at that time. The one thing I will say is I can't see him playing in a 2 as a centre back
consistently. I agree.
Because I think just because of his height, and you watch Saliba play, you watch him 1v1 against those like top class strikers. Timber's a very good defender, but he's a bit more of a chaos defender. Controlling those 1v1 battles, like imagine almost like the Ollie Watkins situation that Saliba didn't deal with. That Timber, I don't think can do that, and I don't think he's got that sort of ability to control space as well